The space station Verilon 7 floated in the darkness between three star systems. It was one of the oldest places of learning in the galaxy. Thousands of students from hundreds of worlds came here to study. They learned about planets, stars, creatures, and the many secrets of the universe. Yuna walked through the long white hallway toward her classroom. She was 22 years old, with black hair that she kept tied back and dark eyes that watched everything carefully. She was human, and in this place, that made her different. Very different. All around her, students of other species moved in groups. The tall insect like Vishan clicked their hard legs against the floor. The scaled crawly hissed quietly to each other as they passed. The four-armed Mithari floated by on their hover platforms, their ancient eyes looking through her like she was not even there. Yuna was used to this. She had been at the academy for 2 years now. She was the only human in the advanced xenobiology program. Xenobiology was the study of alien creatures, and Yuna loved it. She loved learning about the strange and wonderful beings that lived on distant worlds. But her classmates did not understand her love. To them, creatures were just things to study, to cut open, to understand through cold science. To Yuna, every creature had a story. She entered the large classroom and found her seat in the back corner. The room was shaped like a half circle, with rows of seats rising up around a central platform. Today, that platform was empty, except for a single table and a large black container that she had never seen before. Other students filled the seats around her, but no one sat close. That was fine. She preferred the quiet. A familiar voice spoke from behind her. "You should not be here today." Yuna turned and saw Taiho standing in the aisle. He was 24, also human, with a serious face and short, dark hair. He worked as a teaching assistant for the program, though he had once trained at Earth's military academy. He had left that life behind, but something hard still lived in his eyes. Why not? Yuna asked. Taiho sat down in the seat next to her, which surprised her. He usually kept his distance during class. Professor Delwith requested a special specimen for today. A live one. He wants to see how different species react to fear. Yuna felt her stomach grow cold. What kind of specimen? I do not know, but I know Delwith. He enjoys causing pain, and he does not like humans. Taiho looked at her with warning in his eyes. Whatever happens, do not react. Do not give him a reason to notice you. Before Yuna could answer, the door at the bottom of the room opened with a hiss. Professor Delwith walked in. He was Veshan, like many of the professors here. His body was tall and thin, covered in a hard shell the color of dried blood. His head was narrow and pointed, with 2 large compound eyes that reflected the light in 1,000 tiny pieces. His forearms moved constantly, folding and unfolding as he walked. "Students," Delwith said. His voice was sharp, like metal scraping against stone. "Today we have a special lesson. You have studied dangerous creatures in books and recordings. Today, you will see one in the flesh." A ripple of excitement moved through the class. The Crawley students leaned forward, their forked tongues tasting the air. The Veshan clicked their approval. Even the Mithari seemed interested. Yuna felt only dread. Professor Delwith gestured toward the back of the room. The doors opened again, and 4 armed guards walked in. They wore heavy armor and carried weapons that glowed with blue energy. Between them, they pushed a hovering containment pod. The pod was made of black metal with a small window of thick glass on one side. The guards brought the pod to the central platform and locked it in place. Then they stepped back, their weapons ready. "This specimen," Delwith said, "comes from a quarantined world. The planet has been marked for cleansing. The creatures there are considered vermin by the Galactic Council. They spread disease. They breed too quickly. They are a threat to civilized species." He walked around the pod slowly, his compound eyes gleaming. "But they are also interesting to study. Their biology is unusual. Their nervous systems are highly developed. They feel pain very intensely. He paused. This makes them perfect for our lesson today. Delwith touched the control panel on the side of the pod. The black metal walls began to turn clear. Yuna leaned forward, her heart beating fast. She did not know what she expected to see. A monster with sharp teeth, perhaps. A creature with poison claws or burning acid. What she saw was something small. The creature inside the pod was no bigger than a human child. It had soft fur the color of fresh snow, marked with faint silver patterns. Its body was thin and delicate, with 4 slender limbs that ended in small hands. But its face was what caught Yuna's attention. It had large eyes, dark as deep space, that took up most of its head. Those eyes held an expression that Yuna recognized immediately. Terror. Pure and complete terror. The creature pressed itself against the back of the pod, as far from the glass as it could get. Its small body shook without stopping. Around her, Yuna heard reactions from her classmates. But they were not sounds of fear. They were sounds of disgust. A Siluri, one of the Crawley hissed. Disgusting little pests. I thought they were all dead, a Vishan student clicked. They will be soon, Professor Delwith said with satisfaction. This is one of the last. We captured it from a colony that will be cleansed next month. Until then, it will help us learn. He touched another control. A low hum filled the room, and the creature in the pod suddenly screamed. It was a thin, high sound, filled with pain. And then something impossible happened. Yuna heard a voice in her mind. It was not words, exactly. It was more like feelings shaped into meaning. Fear, pain, loneliness. And then, beneath all of that, a desperate question that burned itself into her thoughts. Please, please, you feel different. You feel warm. Can you hear me? Help me. They will kill me. Please, please help me. Yuna gasped and grabbed the edge of her seat. The voice was so clear, so full of pain, that tears came to her eyes before she could stop them. Tae-ho looked at her with alarm. What is wrong? She could not answer. Her eyes were locked on the creature in the pod. And as she watched, the creature's huge dark eyes found her in the crowd of students. It looked directly at her, only at her, and the voice in her mind grew stronger. You can hear me. I know you can. Please. I do not want to die. Please, help me. Professor Delwith noticed the connection. He turned his compound eyes toward Yuna, and his mouth parts moved into something like a smile. Ah, he said. It seems our human student is disturbed. How interesting. Tell me, girl, does the little pest frighten you? Yuna stood up from her seat. She did not plan to do it. Her body simply moved on its own. Every student in the room turned to look at her. The creature in the pod pressed its small hands against the glass. Its dark eyes never left her face. Please, the voice whispered in her mind. Please do not leave me here. Yuna's hands began to shake. But it was not from fear. It was from rage. The classroom was silent. Every eye was on Yuna as she stood in her seat, her hands gripping the desk in front of her. Her heart beat so hard that she could feel it in her throat. Professor Delwith stared at her with his 1,000-faceted eyes. His mouthparts clicked together in a sound that might have been laughter. Well, he said, I asked you a question, human. Does this creature frighten you? Yuna opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Her mind was filled with the voice of the creature in the pod. It was not speaking in words anymore. It was just sending feelings. Fear, pain, a desperate hope that made her chest ache. She is probably going to cry, one of the Crawley students said. The others laughed, a hissing sound that filled the room. Humans are so weak, Vishan agreed. They cannot control their emotions. Yuna felt her face grow hot. She wanted to say something, but her thoughts were tangled together. The creature's feelings mixed with her own until she could not tell which were hers and which came from the small being in the pod. Tejo grabbed her arm and pulled her back down into her seat. "Do not say anything," he whispered. "Just sit down and stay quiet." She sat, but she could not look away from the pod. The creature had moved closer to the glass. Its small hands were pressed flat against the surface, and its huge dark eyes reflected the lights of the classroom. It was looking at her with such intensity that she felt it in her bones. "Now," Professor Delwith said, turning back to the class, "let us continue our lesson. The Siluri are classified as non-sapient organisms. This means they are not intelligent in any meaningful way. They operate on instinct, like animals. They have no culture, no language, no society worth studying." The voice in Yuna's mind said, "That is not true. We have songs. We have names. We have families." She bit her lip to keep from speaking. Delwith walked to the control panel beside the pod. "The Siluri do have one interesting feature. Their nervous systems are extremely sensitive. They feel pain at levels far beyond most species. This makes them ideal subjects for testing pain responses in xenobiological research." He touched a control. Inside the pod, the creature suddenly screamed again. Its body went stiff, and it fell to the floor of the container, shaking violently. "Stop!" The word came out of Yuna before she could stop it. The classroom went silent again. Professor Delwith turned slowly to face her. "What did you say?" Yuna stood up again. Her legs were shaking, but she forced herself to stay standing. "I said stop. You are hurting it." "Yes," Delwith said. "That is the point of the demonstration. We are studying its pain responses." "It is not just responding to pain," Yuna said. Her voice sounded strange in her own ears, stronger than she felt. "It is suffering. It is afraid. It does not want to die." Whispers moved through the classroom. The other students were looking at her like she had lost her mind. "How would you know what it wants?" Delwith asked. His voice was cold and sharp. "It is a non-sapient organism. It has no wants. It has no thoughts. It is merely reacting to stimuli." "I can hear it," Yuna said. "In my mind. It is speaking to me." The whispers grew louder. Someone laughed. Delwith's compound eyes seemed to glow brighter. "Hear it?" He repeated. "The Siluri do not speak. They have no language. Perhaps you are confused, little human. Perhaps your weak mind is creating voices that do not exist." In the pod, the creature had gotten back to its feet. It was looking at Yuna with something new in its eyes. Hope. Desperate. Fragile hope. "My name is Bomi," the voice said in her mind. "Please tell them. My name is Bomi. I had a family. I had a home. Please tell them I am real." Yuna felt tears running down her face. She did not care who saw them. "Its name is Bomi," she said. "It had a family. It had a home. It is real." The laughter stopped. The room became very quiet. Professor Delwith walked slowly up the steps toward her seat. His forearms folded and unfolded as he moved. When he reached her row, he stopped and looked down at her with something like hatred in his many eyes. "You are making claims," he said. "That cannot be proven. The Siluri were classified as non-sapient 200 years ago by the Galactic Council. That classification has never been challenged." "Are you saying that you, a student who has not even graduated, knows better than the Council?" "I am saying what I hear," Yuna said. "It is speaking to me. It is asking for help. And I am saying that you are either lying or insane." Delwith turned to the class. "Perhaps we should add another subject to our study today. The human brain is known to be unstable. It creates false patterns, imaginary connections. What we are seeing here is a perfect example of human weakness. More laughter. More clicking and hissing from the alien students. Taiho stood up beside her. Professor, perhaps we should continue the lesson. The human is clearly unwell. I will take her to the medical center. No, Dawa said. She will stay. She will watch. And she will learn that her feelings mean nothing here. He walked back down to the pod and touched the controls again. This time, he did not stop. The creature inside screamed and screamed, its small body twisting in pain. Please. The voice in Yuna's mind cried. Please make it stop, please. Yuna moved before she knew what she was doing. She pushed past Taiho, ran down the steps, and crossed the platform toward the pod. Guards stepped forward to stop her, but she was faster than they expected. She reached the pod and placed both hands flat against the glass. Inside, the creature called Bomi crawled toward her. Despite its pain, it pressed its own small hands against the glass where hers were. Through the barrier, Yuna could feel its fear, its pain, and beneath all of that, its gratitude. You came, the voice whispered. You really came. I am here, Yuna said out loud. I will not leave you. Professor Delwith grabbed her shoulder and pulled her away from the pod. His grip was strong, his shell-covered fingers digging into her flesh. You have disrupted my class for the last time, he hissed. You are expelled from this program. You will be removed from this station, and that creature will be dissected as planned. You cannot do that, Yuna said. I have rights. The human delegation has protections. Your protections extend to your person, not to your career. Delwith's mouthparts clicked together. By tomorrow, you will be gone, and no one will remember you were ever here. Darge took her arms and pulled her toward the door. As they dragged her away, she looked back at the pod. Bomi was pressed against the glass, watching her go. Its dark eyes were full of tears. Do not forget me, the voice said. Please, do not forget me. I will not, Yuna said. I promise. The doors closed behind her, and the classroom disappeared from view. But the voice in her mind did not fade. It stayed with her, a small spark of warmth in the cold of the station dot, and in that moment, Yuna made a decision. She did not know how she would do it. She did not know if it was even possible. But she knew one thing for certain: she would save Bomi, or she would die trying. The next morning, Yuna filed her challenge. She stood in the administrative office and handed the official document to a tall Mithari clerk who looked at her like she was an insect. You want to challenge a species classification, the clerk said slowly. A classification that has stood for 200 years. Yes, Yuna said. I have evidence that the original study was biased. I request a formal review. The clerk stared at her for a long moment. Then it pressed a button on its desk. Your challenge has been accepted. A hearing will be held in 3 days. Until then, all procedures involving the specimen in question will be delayed. 3 days. Yuna had 3 days to prove that Bomi was a person. She walked out of the office and found Jiwoo waiting for her in the hallway. Next to Jiwoo stood a thin man with messy black hair and tired eyes. He wore the gray uniform of a researcher, and his fingers kept moving like he was typing on an invisible keyboard. This is Dohwan, Jiwoo said. The xenolinguist I told you about. Dohwan nodded at Yuna but did not smile. Jiwoo says you can hear a Siluri speak inside your mind. Yes, interesting. Very interesting. He started walking, and the 2 women followed. I have been studying forbidden communications for 10 years. Signals from quarantined worlds. Messages that the Galactic Council does not want anyone to hear. The Siluri are on that list. You have recordings of them? Yuna asked. I have recordings of many things. Things that would get me expelled from this station if anyone found out. He glanced at her sideways. But for this, I am willing to take the risk. They went to Dohan's small laboratory, a cluttered room filled with equipment and screens showing strange patterns of light. He locked the door behind them and activated a sound-blocking field. "Listen," he said, and pressed a button. A sound filled the room. It was soft and complex, like music, but not quite. There were patterns in it, rising and falling, repeating and changing. Yuna felt something stir in her mind, a faint echo of familiarity. "This is a Siluri broadcast," Dawan said. "Recorded from their homeworld before it was quarantined. Watch the screen." On the screen, the sound was translated into visual patterns. And those patterns showed structure. Clear, organized, meaningful structure. "This is language," Yuna said. "Yes, definitely language. And not just simple communication. Look at this section." Doman pointed to a part of the pattern. "This is a mathematical sequence. Prime numbers. And here, this is a reference to star positions. These are not the sounds of animals. These are the communications of a thinking, cultured species." Jiwoo leaned forward. "Why has no one seen this before?" "Because no one was looking." Dohwan's voice was bitter. "The Vishan declared the Siluri non-sapient before anyone could study them properly. After that, it was illegal to analyze their communications. Anyone who tried was silenced. But you did it anyway," Yuna said. "I did it because I knew the truth. I just could not prove it. Until now." He looked at Yuna with sudden intensity. "If you can really communicate with the specimen, then you can provide the proof I never had. You can show the hearing that the Siluri are people. How? The hearing will allow you to present evidence. If we can broadcast the Siluri's thoughts so everyone can hear them, not just you, then they will have to admit the truth." Jiwoo spoke up. "I can build a device for that. If the Siluri communicate through psionic waves, I can amplify those waves and convert them to sound. Everyone in the room will be able to hear what Yuna hears." Yuna felt hope rising in her chest. "Can you really do that?" "I can try, but I need to study the frequencies first. I need access to the specimen." "That will be difficult," Dohwan said. "Delwith has increased security around the containment area. No one gets in without his permission." Yuna thought for a moment. Then she remembered something. Taiho. He is still a teaching assistant. He has access to the labs. That night, Taiho led them through the back corridors of the research wing. He was nervous, checking every corner, listening for footsteps. But the halls were empty. Most of the staff had gone to sleep. They reached the containment room where Bomi was being held. Through the window in the door, Yuna could see the small creature curled up in the corner of its pod. It looked thinner than before, weaker. The pain sessions had taken their toll. Taiho opened the door, and they slipped inside. The moment Yuna entered the room, she felt Bomi's presence in her mind. It was weak, barely more than a whisper, but it was there. "You came back," the voice said. "I did not think you would come back." Yuna walked to the pod and put her hand on the glass. "I told you, I would not forget you." Bomi crawled toward her, moving slowly like every motion hurt. When it reached the glass, it pressed its small hand against hers. "I am afraid," it said. "They said tomorrow they will cut me open. They said I will feel everything." "That is not going to happen," Yuna said. "I am going to save you. I promise." Jiwoo stepped forward with a small device. "I need to take some readings. Can it communicate something while I measure the frequencies?" Yuna looked at Bomi. "Can you tell me something?" "Anything. Talk to me about your home." Bomi's huge dark eyes looked at her with such trust that it made her chest hurt. And then it began to send images. Yuna saw a world with purple skies and silver grass. She saw small creatures like Bomi playing in the light of two suns. She saw songs being shared between minds, Stories passed from parent to child, love expressed without words. She saw beauty and peace and joy dot, and then she saw the ships coming. Dark ships that blocked out the suns. She felt the terror, the confusion, the pain as families were torn apart. She heard the screams, both in sound and in thought, as the Veshan took what they wanted and destroyed everything else. Tears ran down Yuna's face. She did not try to stop them. Did you get it? She asked Jiwoo. Jiwoo was staring at her screen with wide eyes. Yes, I got it. These frequencies are clear and strong. I can build the amplifier. How long? 2 days. Maybe less if I do not sleep. Then do not sleep. They left the containment room quickly before anyone could find them. As they walked through the dark corridors, Do-won spoke quietly. There is one more thing you should know. I found the names of the researchers who conducted the original Siluri study. They were all Veshan, and one of them was an ancestor of Professor Delwith. Yuna stopped walking. Delwith's family was involved in classifying the Siluri? More than involved. They led the effort. And 3 years after the classification was approved, the Veshan took control of Siluri territory. They found rare minerals there, worth trillions of credits. The pieces came together in Yuna's mind. It was never about science. It was about greed. It was about power, Do-won said. The Siluri stood in the way of what the Veshan wanted. So they were declared animals and swept aside. Yuna felt the anger building inside her again. But this time, it was cold and focused. Then at the hearing, we will show everyone what really happened, she said. We will expose the truth. All of it. On the night before the hearing, Yuna went back to see Bomi one more time. Taiho stood guard outside while she sat beside the pod. Tomorrow everything changes, she told the small creature. Tomorrow you speak to them. All of them. Can you do that? Bomi's voice in her mind was tired but determined. I can try. For you, I will try. Not for me. For yourself. For your people. Bomi was quiet for a moment. Then it sent her a feeling that needed no translation. It was a feeling of warmth, of safety, of belonging. Unisafe, it said. That is what I call you in my mind. You make me feel safe. Yuna smiled through her tears. And you make me feel brave. She put her hand on the glass one more time. I will see you tomorrow, Bomi. And after tomorrow, you will be free. The creature pressed its hand against hers. In her mind, she felt its hope, fragile but real. I believe you, Bomi said. I believe. The guards took Yuna to the security office and left her there alone. The room was small and cold, with white walls and a single chair. She sat down and waited. Her hands were still shaking, but her mind was clear. Clearer than it had been in a long time. She could still feel Bomi at the edge of her thoughts. The creature's voice was faint now, far away, but it was there. A small thread of connection that had not broken. After an hour, the door opened and Taiho walked in. He looked tired and worried. He closed the door behind him and leaned against the wall. What were you thinking? He asked. I was thinking that they were hurting an innocent creature, Yuna said. And I could not just sit there and watch. You could have. You should have. Now Delwith wants you removed from the station. He's talking to the administrators right now. Yuna felt a cold weight in her chest. Can he really do that? Maybe. Maybe not. The human delegation has some power here, but Delwith has connections. The Veshan fund half of this station. They do not like being challenged. I do not care about their money, Yuna said. I care about that creature. About Bomi. Taiho raised an eyebrow. You named it? It named itself. It told me its name. She looked at him directly. Taiho, I am not making this up. I really can hear it. The Siluri are telepathic. They communicate through their minds. And somehow, I can receive their thoughts. Taiho was quiet for a long moment. Then he sat down in the chair across from her. Humans are known to have some psionic potential. Most species do not develop it, but it exists in our biology. It is possible that you have a natural sensitivity. Then you believe me? I believe that you believe it, he said carefully. But whether anyone else will believe you is another question. The Siluri have been classified as non-sapient for 200 years. Changing that classification would require proof. Real proof. Not just the word of one human student. Yuna thought about this. Then I need to find proof. Before Taiho could respond, the door opened again. A woman walked in, young and small, with short black hair and sharp eyes. She was human, and Yuna recognized her immediately. Ji-woo, she said. Ji-woo was her roommate, the only real friend she had made at the station. She studied engineering and rarely talked about feelings or anything emotional. But right now, her face was full of concern. I heard what happened, Ji-woo said. Everyone is talking about it. The human who challenged the Vishan professor and then tried to hug a pest creature. I was not trying to hug it. I was trying to comfort it. Same thing to them. Ji-woo sat down on the edge of the desk. What is going on with you? This is not like you. You are usually so quiet. Yuna took a deep breath. Then she told Ji-woo everything. About the voice in her mind, about Bomi, about the terror and pain she had felt from the small creature. When she finished, Ji-woo was quiet for a long time. So you can read its mind, Ji-woo said finally. Not exactly. It sends thoughts to me. Feelings and images and sometimes words. I do not think it can read my mind. It just talks and hopes someone is listening. And you are the only one who can hear it? As far as I know. Ji-woo looked at Taiho. Is this possible? Taiho nodded slowly. Humans have latent psionic abilities. It is rare, but it happens. And if the Siluri really are telepathic, then it makes sense that a human with sensitivity could receive their communications. Ji-woo turned back to Yuna. Okay, so let us say I believe you. What do you want to do about it? I want to save Bomi, Yuna said. Delwith said they are going to dissect it. I cannot let that happen. How are you going to stop it? You are just a student. Delwith has power, money, and 200 years of official classification on his side. Yuna thought hard. Then something occurred to her. The classification. You said it was made 200 years ago. Who made it? Taiho frowned. I do not know. I can find out. Please do. If the original classification was wrong or biased, maybe we can challenge it. Taiho stood up. I will see what I can find in the archives. But you need to stay here. If you cause any more trouble, even the human delegation will not be able to protect you. He left the room. Yuna looked at Ji-woo. You think I am crazy, she said. Ji-woo smiled slightly. I think you are the most stubborn person I have ever met. And also the kindest. It is a dangerous combination. Will you help me? Ji-woo sighed. What do you need? I need a way to prove that Bomi is sapient. That it is a real person with thoughts and feelings. If I can show that to the administrators, maybe they will stop the dissection. How do you prove something like that? Yuna thought about the voice in her mind, about the words Bomi had used. It spoke to me about songs and names and families. It has culture. It has a history. If we can find evidence of that, maybe it will be enough. Ji-woo nodded slowly. I have a friend, Do-hwan. He works in xenolinguistics studying alien communications. He's a little strange, but he knows things. Secret things. He might be able to help. Can you contact him? I will try. But first, you need to do something for me. What? Ji-woo put her hand on Yuna's shoulder. Promise me you will be careful. Delwith is not just angry. He is dangerous. The Vision do not forgive challenges to their authority. If you push too hard, they will push back. And they do not care about things like fairness or justice. Una thought about Bomi in that cold pod, surrounded by creatures that saw it as nothing more than a pest to be destroyed. I will be careful, she said. But I will not stop. I made a promise. Ji Woo nodded. She did not ask what promise. She did not need to. 3 hours later, Una was back in her quarters when a message came through her personal screen. It was from someone she did not expect, Commander Hayok. He was the head of the human delegation at Varelon 7, a former military officer, now a diplomat. Una had met him only once, during her first week at the station. He had seemed distant and formal. The message was short. Come to my office. Now. Alone. Una went. The commander's office was in the human section of the station, a small area where the handful of human staff and students lived and worked. When she arrived, Commander Hayok was standing by the window, looking out at the stars. He was in his 40s, with gray at his temples and lines on his face from years of hard decisions. When he turned to face her, his eyes were sharp, but not unkind. Sit down, he said. She sat. I heard what you did today, he said. All of it, including the claim that you can hear the Siluri creature's thoughts. It is true, Una said. I can hear it. It is not just an animal. It is a person. Commander Hayok studied her for a long moment. Then he sat down across from her. I believe you, he said. Yun. Blinked. You do? I have been stationed on many worlds. I have seen things that most people would not believe. I have learned to keep an open mind. He leaned forward. I have also learned something about the Siluri classification. Something that was buried deep in the archives. What? The study that declared the Siluri non-sapient was conducted 200 years ago by Veshan researchers, the same species that later claimed their territory and resources. Una felt her heart beat faster. Are you saying the classification was wrong on purpose? I am saying it was convenient. Commander Hayok stood up and walked to his desk. He picked up a small data chip and held it out to her. This contains the original study. Read it carefully. The conclusion does not match the evidence. Someone wanted the Siluri declared non-sapient. And I think we both know why. Una took the chip. Her hand was steady now. What do I do with this? You challenged the classification, officially, through the proper legal channels. It will delay the dissection while the case is reviewed. Will that work? It will buy you time. He looked at her with something like respect. After that, it is up to you. Prove the Siluri are people. Show the galaxy what they really are. Una stood up. Thank you, Commander. Do not thank me yet, he said. This is only the beginning. The hard part is still ahead. She nodded and walked to the door. Then she stopped. Why are you helping me? She asked. Commander Hayok smiled slightly. Because I remember what it felt like to hear someone calling for help and not be able to do anything. This time, maybe I can make a difference. Una left the office with the data chip in her hand. In her mind, she could still feel Bomi's presence. Faint but real. I am coming, she whispered. Hold on, I am coming. The Grand Arbitration Chamber was the largest room on Varelon 7. It was shaped like a great bowl, with seats rising up on all sides and a platform in the center where cases were presented. Today, every seat was filled. Word had spread through the station about the human student who had challenged the 200-year-old classification, who had claimed she could hear a Siluri speak in her mind. Some came to watch her fail. Some came hoping to see history change. All of them came because they knew, whatever happened, this day would be remembered. Una stood at the center of the platform. She wore simple clothes, not the formal robes that lawyers usually wore. She was not a lawyer. She was just a student who had heard a voice calling for help. Beside her stood Taiho, Jiwoo, and Dohan. Commander Hyok sat in the front row of the audience, his face calm but his eyes watchful. And across the platform, Professor Delwith stood with a group of Veshan lawyers, their compound eyes glittering with confidence. At the highest point of the chamber sat Arbiter Colin, a Mythari so old that its skin had turned from blue to silver. The Arbiter's job was to judge the case fairly, based only on the evidence presented. It had served in this role for 300 years and was known for strict justice. "This hearing will now begin," Arbiter Colin said. Its voice was like wind through dry leaves. "The human Yuna has challenged the classification of the species known as Siluri. She claims they are sapient beings, not animals. She has 3 days' worth of evidence to present." Professor Delwith represents the current classification. Both sides will be heard. Professor Delwith spoke first. His voice was smooth and certain. "This challenge is a waste of the chamber's time. The Siluri were studied extensively 200 years ago by qualified researchers. They were found to be non-sapient organisms operating purely on instinct. This classification has never been successfully challenged. The human student has no new evidence, only emotional claims based on her own unstable psychology." Whispers moved through the crowd. Some of the Veshan clicked in agreement. Arbiter Colin turned to Yuna. "What is your response?" Yuna took a deep breath. "I have evidence that the original study was biased. The researchers who conducted it were all Veshan. One of them was an ancestor of Professor Delwith. 3 years after the classification was approved, the Veshan Empire claimed Siluri territory and took control of valuable resources there. The classification was not science. It was politics." The whispers grew louder. Delwith's mouthparts clicked angrily. "These are accusations without proof," he said. "The human is trying to distract from her lack of real evidence." Yuna nodded to Dohan, who stepped forward. "I have analyzed Siluri communications recorded from their homeworld before the quarantine. These recordings show clear evidence of language, including mathematical concepts and astronomical references. The Siluri are not animals. They have culture, knowledge, and art." Screens around the chamber lit up with Dowan's analysis. The patterns were clear and undeniable. Complex structures that could not be explained by simple instinct. But Delwith was not finished. Sound patterns prove nothing. Many animals make complex sounds. That does not make them people. Arbiter Colin looked at Yuna. "Do you have anything more?" "Yes." Yuna's voice was steady. "I request permission to bring the specimen into the chamber. And I request permission to let it speak for itself." Shock rippled through the audience. Even Arbiter Colin seemed surprised. "The specimen cannot speak," Delwith said. "It has no vocal cords capable of language. It speaks through thought," Yuna said. "And I have a device that can translate those thoughts into sound so everyone can hear." Delwith laughed, a harsh clicking sound. "This is ridiculous. The human claims to have technology that converts thoughts into words. It is impossible." Jiwoo stepped forward. "I built it myself. The Siluri communicate through psionic waves. My device amplifies those waves and converts them into audio frequencies. It is simple engineering, nothing more." Arbiter Colin was silent for a long moment. Then it nodded slowly. "I will allow it. Bring in the specimen." The doors at the back of the chamber opened. Guards pushed in the containment pod with Bomi inside. The small creature looked even smaller in this huge room, surrounded by thousands of eyes. But when it saw Yuna, something changed in its posture. It stood up straighter. Its huge dark eyes focused on her face. Jiwoo activated her device. It hummed softly, filling the chamber with a low vibration. "Bomi," Una said gently. "Can you hear me?" And then, for the first time, everyone in the chamber heard the voice. "I hear you, Unisafe." The voice was soft and clear, filling the room like music. It was not a human voice, but it was unmistakably a voice. A person's voice. Gasps and cries of surprise came from the audience. Even Delwith stepped back, his compound eyes wide. "Tell them who you are," Una said. Bomi was quiet for a moment. Then it began to speak. "My name is Bomi. In my language, it means spring, because I was born when the purple flowers bloomed on my world. I had a mother and a father and 2 siblings. We lived in the valley where the silver grass grows. Every night, we would share our songs with each other, sending them from mind to mind across great distances. We had stories that were older than your oldest records. We had art made of pure thought, beautiful beyond words." Tears were running down Una's face, but she did not interrupt. Then the ships came. Dark ships that blocked out the suns. They took us from our homes. They separated families. My parents, my siblings, I do not know if they are alive or dead. I was brought here, to this cold place, where they hurt me and called me an animal. Bomi pressed its hands against the glass of the pod. But I am not an animal. I think. I feel. I love. I fear. I hope. I am a person, just like all of you. I want to live. I want to go home. I want to see my family again." The chamber was completely silent. Even the Veshin had stopped clicking. Professor Delwith recovered first. This proved nothing. The device could be creating false sounds. The human could be programming it to say whatever she wants. Una looked at Arbiter Colon, then tested. Asked the specimen something only it would know. Something I could not have programmed. The Arbiter considered this. Then it spoke directly to Bomi. "Little one, if you are truly sapient, then tell me something about your world that would not be in any record. Something personal." Bomi was quiet for a moment. Then it spoke again. "When I was very young, my mother taught me a counting game. We would count the stars in the night sky and give each one a name based on its color. The blue stars were water. The yellow stars were hope. The red stars were memory. I named one small white star after my father because it flickered like his laugh. The words hung in the air, simple, innocent, undeniably real." Arbiter Colon closed its ancient eyes for a long moment. When it opened them again, its voice was heavy with emotion. "I have heard enough." It stood slowly, its silver skin catching the light. "For 200 years, we have accepted a lie. We have called a thinking, feeling people animals. We have destroyed their homes, taken their families, used them as specimens in laboratories. This is not science. This is cruelty. This is crime." The Arbiter looked at Delwith, who had gone very still. "Pending full review, the Siluri are hereby reclassified as sapient beings. All specimens held by this station and throughout the galaxy are to be released immediately. The quarantine on the Siluri homeworld is lifted. Diplomatic contact will begin as soon as possible." It paused, and its voice grew colder. "Professor Delwith is removed from his position, pending investigation into academic misconduct and conspiracy to commit genocide. The guards will escort him from this chamber." Guards moved forward. Delwith started to protest, but his words were lost in the noise of the crowd. People were standing, talking, some cheering, some crying. History was changing before their eyes. Una did not watch Delwith being taken away. She walked to the containment pod and placed her hand on the glass. "It is over," she said. "You are free." The pod's walls turned clear, then disappeared entirely. For the first time, nothing stood between Una and Bomi. The small creature stepped out slowly, looking around the chamber with wonder and fear. Thousands of eyes watched it, Then, in front of everyone, Bomi walked directly to Yuna and pressed against her leg. Through Jiwoo's device, the whole chamber heard its voice. Yuna safe. Family now. Yuna knelt down and wrapped her arms around the small being. She held it gently, feeling its warmth, its life, its trust. Family now, she agreed. 6 months later, Yuna stood on the surface of the Siluri homeworld. The sky above was purple, just as Bomi had described. Silver grass stretched to the horizon, swaying in a gentle wind. 2 suns hung in the sky, casting double shadows. Beside her stood Taiho, Jiwoo, Dohwan, and Commander Hyok. They were the first human diplomatic mission to this world. But they were not alone. Thousands of Siluri had gathered to greet them. Small figures with snow-white fur and huge dark eyes, standing in the silver grass, watching in silence. Then the silence broke. Through the translator devices the team wore, they heard a sound that was not a sound. It was a thought, broadcast from thousands of minds at once. Welcome, protectors. Welcome, Yuna saves people. Welcome home. Yuna felt tears on her face. She did not wipe them away. At the front of the crowd, one small figure broke away and ran toward her. It was Bomi, healthy now, its fur shining in the light of the 2 suns.